It's 5:31. We'll call this meeting of the Public Works and Highway, special meeting of the Public Works and Highway Committee to order. Attendance shows that everyone is in attendance. I'll entertain a motion for meeting minutes approval of September 3rd.
You guys got to do it. I'm not ready yet.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Are there any changes or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to public comment. Anyone in the public who would like to come up and talk? I guess we're up at the big podium tonight.
We can.
Good evening, Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Just a few comments, I guess, mainly observations. Again, I brought it up many times. Others of you have brought it up, is when we look at reports from accounting, why are revenues listed as negatives and expenses listed as positives? That is not any accounting I'm familiar with from my accounting classes in college. It'd be a lot easier to read. Now I can read it and figure it out, but it'd be a lot easier for the average person to read if we change that. I don't know why we haven't or can't, but we should be able to with the software we have. Or create a report. So first comment. Second one, I was looking at the water utility, of course, being on the utility advisory, very pay attention to water and sewer. I see that, I see this, we're paying down this much principal, this much interest every year, but I have no idea what the total debt for all water is out there, or the debt for all sewer is out there. And what's done in the private sector that I've seen of a lot of is an actual debt repayment schedule. When are we scheduled to pay off this debt? Not like these are coming due in 22, these are coming due in 30, these are coming, but what is the repayment? How are we trending on the repayment? Because based on what the capital budget says, we are looking to borrow, if everything is as the way it is, which I'm hope is worst case scenario, $142 million in the next 5 years is what's on the plan that you can change. That's a lot of money. That would get you right up against your limit of 220 million. So to pay attention to that. But a repayment schedule, how quickly we're paying down debt, are we just adding to, or are we paying it down at the same level at least we're taking on? That'd be helpful for probably a lot of people, not just me. A couple other things in the budget. When I start seeing things like maintenance items put in capital borrowing, like library gutter seam repair for $20,000, why are we borrowing for ongoing maintenance items? This village, as far as I know, the library is a village building. Unless that changes or has changed, I would like to know that, because we can't be borrowing for that. It should be part of either reserves in their budget or village budget for maintenance or something. We can't be shifting operational things over to borrowing. You can't borrow your way to success. No one's ever done it. So I'll move on from that. Capital budget. And I'm guessing this is worst case scenario because I know some of the projects listed there have potential of grant money to assign against. So this is like worst case scenario. Let's say it's worst case scenario. So I see things like $3 million allocated for a new police department for design, and I don't remember that we even have a site settled on yet. So, I mean, we can change things. We have till February to do some borrowing, whatever we do, but $3 million for the police department for design, we don't even have a site picked out yet. That's something we could take out and put back in as needed. That one is not too bad, but I guess I could see it, but I'm confused by it. That lift station 6 budget number, that goes away. That's the third or fourth year in a row I'm seeing $1.2 million in there. This land is privately owned and is not for sale, and they were approached several times. They do not want to sell it to Germantown Village. They do not want to. So why it's a placeholder for 1.2 million? They're not going to sell it to you. If they change their minds, they can approach the village. And buying that strip mall after what happened with the water event, I don't think that's a good idea, because lift station 6 right now is above the elevation of that strip mall, and we had to sandbag it anyways. Why would you consider moving it there at $5 million or whatever it is? I just think that's silly to put that even in there. We got to deal with the reality of what we have going on. With the, with the seal coating and the road repair, I know we have stuff allocated to that. Looks like we spend about 2 million a year between the two. State gives us about 1.25 million out of the gas tax to fix our roads. So in effect, we're borrowing an extra 750,000 in an average year. The years that are bigger, we're borrowing an extra $1 million. So if you did that for 12 years, you're borrowing 9, 10, 11 million dollars for roads. Roads are important, but what about figuring out a way to stay within the budget so we can allocate it to other needs we have and not have to borrow as much? These are all things to look at. And again, these are all subject to change. I just saw in the last month, we were told 15.5 million for 2 lift stations. Now on the recent thing, it's 16.7 million for 2 lift stations. I don't know if there's an inflation factor in there or what, but if we just keep, is it going to be 18 million? Is it going to be 20 million? I mean, where does it stop? We need to have real costs of what's going on. And related to that project, I certainly hope we're going out with multiple RFPs. We can't just go with somebody that we know that just because they've done work for us. We need as many RFPs as possible because that is the only way that we'll be able to hold the people that do work for us.
you.
Honestly, thank you.
Anybody else? I guess I don't see anybody else in the audience, so we will move on to unfinished. Oh, we want to read into the record an email actually from 2 weeks ago. And I don't see the person in the audience, but we'll read it anyway.
Right, this is an email we received on Friday, September 5th, from Melanie Smythe, Cedar Lane. It says, "Good afternoon. I had the opportunity to view the Public Works meeting and really appreciate the stance for cutting the budget from trustees. Disappointed not to see anything about the utilities and their budgets. I'm resending the email that I sent before the 4 p.m. deadline and asking that it be read into the special meeting so that you can, so that you put together end of this month. In addition, to ask at the bottom of the meeting, I am asking that in conjunction with the 5-year forecast plan for all expenditures, borrowing, grant finding, expected revenues, state funding, et cetera, that estimated tax rates for those same years be provided. In other words, with all the costs coming up, TIDS not releasing revenue yet, how will all this be paid for, and what will the cost be for a typical household, whether on utilities or not? Thanks for considering this, Melanie Smythe."
Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business, Public Works Capital Budget Review.
All right, I just have a couple things I wanted to show before the discussion begins. And in a way, it might have been better to do the 5-year CIP so we get the bigger picture of kind of where things are at. But I wanted to just put together or go through some figures that I put together today to kind of frame some of the discussion. So there's been a lot of conversation about equipment and the replacement cycles, and I presented a report at the last Public Works meeting. So I just crunched a few numbers related to the fleet and replacement cycles and how that all works out so everybody kind of gets an idea. But when we're talking about the highway, parks, buildings, and grounds fleet, there's approximately 190 pieces of equipment. And through our 10-year equipment plan, we assigned the average piece of equipment to a 21-year life cycle. So if we're keeping up with that 21-year life cycle on average, that equates to roughly 9 pieces of equipment that need to be replaced annually. So, when we get into conversations and if those do include deferring purchases, that's something to be aware of, is that the more you do that, the kind of more you put yourself in a hole in terms of what's coming up in the future. Average annual cost to maintain the fleet at the size that was studied in the plan, that 190 pieces of equipment, is approximately $600,000 annually. So that's over the next 10 years on average. To maintain that fleet and keep up with replacement cycles, we need about $600,000.
Is that labor plus parts, or how do you figure that?
No, that's the replacement of vehicles when the life cycle comes due, not actual like maintenance. So when I say maintain, it's like keeping up with the life cycle. Yeah. And then we'll present the 5-year CIP at the end of the meeting today, but I just wanted everybody to see kind of what this looks like. Obviously, these budgets aren't approved, but this gives you an idea of kind of what the village is looking at over the next 5 years. You know, for this year, we're at about $13 million or 13.7, so that's a big number already. But the future years are, you know, substantially higher with, you know, the costs anticipated for police and fire buildings and so on. And it's not, at least as the 5 year stands right now, until 2030, when there's a little bit of a break in that. And then that 10-year equipment plan that I put together with the help of all of our public works staff, we did, over this 10-year period, find about $2 million worth of savings in reducing the fleet size or in eliminating equipment that would have been scheduled for replacement. Like, so we're keeping that equipment, but we won't replace it when it comes due. And then there's another 1.68 or so million dollars in equipment that could use additional analysis down the road as well. And we've highlighted that in the report. And then looking at one of the particular items that we'll probably talk more about is how the effect on sidewalk winter maintenance could affect the capital budget. There's an approximate savings of about $172,000 if we do decide to pursue that code change that makes adjacent property owners more responsible for their sidewalk maintenance. So with that said, I'll pull up the 2026 recommended capital improvement projects, and this is a listing for all of the departments. Now, obviously, I'm prepared to talk about the public works stuff in particular, and the way that it appears on here, and I apologize for how it ended up being formatted in the packet, but the way it's listed here is our priority order. So be happy to start with any questions about this.
I hate to do this to you. Can you go back to your cheat sheet, your Cliff Notes?
Yep.
That you started with? I appreciate that. I just want to get those last 2 points. From sidewalk. Okay. 122 and 20. Okay. Okay. We can go back. So do you want to start with just the DPW?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to explain some of these projects. Otherwise, we could just kind of take questions where they exist. I guess it's.
I think an explanation would be good and the justification for why we think we need it. And again, when you say all of these are in order that I'm looking at in order of priority,
The ones on the screen are in order of priority.
so sidewalk tractor,
Sidewalk tractor is
hopefully that we're gonna
here on
not
the list.
use. Yeah,
Yeah, so
okay,
what would happen with the sidewalk tractor if we did change the code and required that adjacent property owners do their sidewalk maintenance is that this would become a $150,000 request instead of a $272,000 request. And that equipment would still be situated roughly in that spot on the list.
okay. Why don't you walk us through briefly each one of these annual road program, for example, that's our 5-year program and the roads that come up, obviously. People are expecting that.
Yep, so we have, we actually have the road program projected out for 10 years. With obviously the closest couple of years being the most certain. It does get annual reevaluation, and we did just complete the PACER ratings in the spring of this year. But we're proposing to keep pace with the road program. I think it's worth noting that we're starting to catch up on some of the years where the roads weren't funded as to the level they are now, and PACER ratings had gone down for several cycles, but we did notice with our new evaluation this spring that it did tick up a little bit. And I do expect that with the substantial amount of road work we conducted this year, that it will continue to go up. With that said, there are still a large number of road segments in Germantown with a Pacer rating of between 3 and 4, which is on the low end. We're replacing roads at 3 and 4 Pacer ratings. So that,
Questions about that?
Yes. Do we have any 1 through 2 PACER ratings?
maybe just
Ones
a,
through-
maybe just a segment or two, like I'm thinking the Rockfield Road from Gateway Crossing to the freeway, the area that just washed out.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
It's repaired, but that segment is in very poor condition. So I would guess that that's probably a 2. But otherwise, no, when you're getting in the 1 and 2, you're talking about a road that is, in
Almost gravel.
extremely poor
Yeah.
condition.
It's
So
fine.
you don't want to be replacing roads down in the 1s and 2s because your phones and my phones would never stop ringing about that.
They become 1s and 2s when you totally cut out your road budget and let them deteriorate to that degree.
So,
Eh.
so my additional question would be, I thought that we got a transportation fund from the state, and it's about 1.25 million every year.
I don't know the exact number. Matthew's in the back and he might have to come and rescue me on what exactly that number is. I believe it's a little higher than that.
Probably.
And what's it earmarked for next year?
Yeah,
It's a good question for the finance director.
He's going to put in his steps today.
We receive roughly, just under $1.6 million in general transportation aid from the state. Those funds are used to fund the operations of the highway department.
The highway only, like Highway 41, or is it one?
No, like the highway department within
Oh.
the village.
Oh,
Those funds are allocated to the general fund, not the capital fund.
So
Eh.
if, I'm sorry, so if we didn't get that money, we wouldn't have a highway department? I mean, normally I would think that would be earmarked for capital.
If we
improvements.
didn't receive those funds, we would have to cut the general fund budget by 1.6 million.
To receive those funds.
No, if we didn't receive those funds,
Okay,
we would have to cut the general fund budget by 1.6 million.
okay. Wow, what a mess.
but, okay, explain where it goes in the highway. Is it salaries, roads, streetlights? What are we talking
It
about?
would go to everything. It's not dedicated to one specific project or one specific person. It is general fund revenue that we use to support the highway department.
Do we do that every year, Matt?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Same way?
correct.
For years?
Yep.
Okay, so,
And that's how all municipalities use their general transportation aid.
okay. Any other road program questions?
Well, can it be changed?
Why?
You can allocate those funds however you'd like. If you move it from the general
Within
fund,
the-
you'll have to,
Within the transportation, I mean, we could move it
Oh, you're
around.
s- Are
within-
you asking, can those transportation dollars be spent elsewhere?
No, that's not my question.
Oh.
So let's say the transportation fund, 1.6 something million is in XYZ right now, but we want to keep it in the highway department, but we want to change it to MNOP. Can we be doing that
Change it to what?
to a different fund? Like you
It-
got ABC and then you got,
if you transfer the general fund, or if you transfer the general transportation aid out of the general fund and into the capital fund, which you can do, you would have to decrease the general fund by $1.6 million in expenses because you're taking that revenue away from the general fund and giving it to the capital fund.
Yeah, that makes sense.
but the general fund is for highways. And I thought you explained to me that we could use it for roads.
Our
And-
annual road program is funded through the capital fund, not the general fund.
Oh, so we don't do any roads with this transportation general fund money.
Correct. It goes to maintain the operations within the highway department, which includes maintenance of roads, but not the annual road program, not to that level, no.
Hmm.
The annual road program is borrowed for.
Correct.
This annual road program, is this just street roads? Or does this include Division Road?
This does not include Division. Well, yeah, this does not include Division Road. Division Road was an approved project in 2024. So that project budget was approved. Not all the borrowing has taken place, but the project itself is approved. So this would be looking at our 10-year road program and looking at what we have scheduled for replacement in 2026, which is based on Pacer ratings that are low and in combination with traffic volume to some degree.
What did we borrow for roads last year? Do you have that?
It was just a little less.
That's,
So
it's always right around 1.5, 1.6. It's been that way for about the
Right.
past 5 years. And
But
I
I thought-
personally would not want to give up repairing our roads.
I thought one year we did postpone.
No,
Do you
never
remember that?
on roads, never,
During COVID?
never.
We haven't postponed, certainly since I've been with the village. One year we did decrease it from 1.5 million to 1 million.
Okay, that's what I thought there. Thank you.
This is going to take all night if we don't take off big chunks of this at a time. I personally don't have a problem with the 1.6 for the roads. If somebody wanted to reduce it by a couple million. But I mean, the reality is roads and public safety are the two most important things in the community that we ever get calls for, ever, is road maintenance and public safety. So to me, the road maintenance is something I won't touch. I would defer a piece of equipment before I would defer that. Bob, Rick, anything on roads?
Well, I was just going to say, that's an item where if you delay the repairs to the roads, they're only going to get more expensive. And we're going to start getting more complaints. We're going to get behind the 8 ball. There was a time there, I think, in the previous administrations where we had 2 or 3 years we didn't do anything with it. And we're still paying the price for that.
We are. We are. We actually had a road fund and they put it somewhere else. And we are still playing catch up. This is probably the first year where we're not playing catch up. We're
yeah,
almost caught up.
our Pacer ratings kind of bear that out where they had been on a downward trajectory until this 2025 rating. And I think we're starting to make progress. I think seeing that through for another number of years and honestly just for the foreseeable future is the best course of action for the reasons that Trustee Warren just mentioned.
Rick, any comments on roads?
Not really. I'm okay with it. I'm of agreement that 1.6, it's basic inflation really from the 1.5 that we've been spending approximately on this. And I think we have a good road program that is well thought. And you presented that, and now we have another one with the replacements of the equipment.
That's just real quick one related to that.
Mhm.
Are we going to get any money back on any of the projects this year?
Microphones, 911.
Like.
The question was, are we going to come under budget on any of the road projects this year? And can that money be thrown back into the road projects?
I don't believe it can be reallocated to next year's budget. I think we ran into that situation last year where we did come up under budget. It's a little too early to tell. We still have pay applications coming in for the road program, so I don't want to jinx it and be wrong on that. But I think we're running much closer to the budget than being substantially under like we were last year.
Just a general comment to move our committee meeting along here. Let's bear in mind that we're not going to actually make decisions on the capital budget until probably February. That's how it works out every year before you borrow. But this will be dissected by us, by GGF, and by the village board in the meantime. So we're in advisory capacity here. So I think what we should do, if these are in the order of priority that we're seeing here on the screen, let's ask Matt if we have questions about any of these, rather than have you explain each one so we can be out here before midnight. So why don't you start, Rick? What you have a question on, or?
Are we still at DPW or
We're
the overall
DPW.
list?
We're only doing DPW because Matt can't answer the overall list. We're DPW. And according to the, he said, it according to the screen, it's an order of priority with roads
Mhm.
being number one. Next, GIS upgrade.
Mhm.
And you believe that's something we absolutely need?
Yeah, that's a big part of our asset management strategy going forward. So that's a very high priority.
We hired an asset manager, so to me, that makes sense. We can't really do much with that. So number three, Map One Road resurface engineering.
Yeah, so these next couple are pretty straightforward because we have signed agreements with the state.
We're committed to that.
So we're committed to those. The next one, we're committed in the sense that we have a bridge with some repairs that are necessary that have been identified by bridge inspections. So we need to fund that project to make those repairs, design and repairs next year.
Is that done by the state? Are you talking about Maple Road Bridge?
Yes.
Okay. Is that done by the state?
The bridge inspections are done by the county.
Okay.
And forwarded to the municipalities, and then the municipality is responsible for making the repairs.
Was that a significant situation?
Yeah, we have a budget number of $275,000, but we really need some preliminary design to know exactly the extent of it. You know, I think that can be close to the number, but without having that preliminary step, we just don't know.
But we have to do it this year? Is it going to fall down? Is it going to be dangerous to the community?
Well, it's not going to fall down, and the county has the authority to close a bridge if they feel it's unsafe. But they're not doing it, and it's not anywhere close to that, but it is categorized as an important or critical find. So it's something that needs to be addressed.
This is the bridge over the interstate?
No, this is over,
I didn't think so.
yeah, it's over Goldendale Creek, so just north of Freistadt.
Ah,
Oh,
makes a lot more sense.
oh, north.
Yep,
Because didn't we repave Maple South?
south.
Yeah. So Maple wasn't repaved north.
Is there any chance if we did delay this, would there be any potential funding from any other sources that might pop up?
I really don't think we want to wait. I think we could do some research on trying to identify funding. There are local bridge improvement programs available through WISDOT that we could explore. But based on the nature of the finding, I think it's important to start making progress on that
Okay.
repair.
And we're going to make the wild assumption on this committee that you will automatically have your staff explore any potential funding out there in every case, without us ever saying another word about it, okay? And then report back, because I think that's to be expected,
Right.
especially in a year like this. So we'll look for that. Okay, so then we know the patrol truck, that's every year. We did, in my history here, we did delay it 1 year once. And because it is a big ticket item, and I personally think if we need to do it, that would be one of my picks. Committee?
Yeah, I would just, I would say that the replacement of the patrol trucks, and this is why we prioritize the list, is to show, how important we feel that is to the operation. I mean, honestly, I would rather take out the bottom 5 projects than cut the patrol truck. And that's kind of why this is listed that way. Through the 10-year equipment plan, we have right now 22, I believe, patrol trucks in the garage. And we're going to be reducing that number to 20, and then we're going to maintain a 20-year replacement cycle on the trucks. So it amounts to a truck a year, and we do have a period that, and the 10-year equipment plan kind of shows this coming up after this year where technically a truck isn't due. But then there'll be future years where you'll need to purchase 2 trucks. So in order to avoid running into multiple years where we're kind of scheduled to replace 2 trucks in order to maintain our cycle. I think, as painful as it is sometimes, that's, a super important piece of equipment for us to maintain the village in winter, because after roads and public safety, I bet snow is pretty high on the priority list.
I always get nervous when we try to um, change things that are in a cycle. There's a lot of thought that went into the cycle, cycling through these patrol trucks, staying ahead of the curve. And I always hate affecting these budgets for those types of things, because then we just, the hole keeps getting deeper. And I know the hole gets deeper for everything, but we put a lot of thought into this, and it's every year, and I just wouldn't want to adjust that or change that.
Rick? Comments on anything?
I'm the same way. Like I said, Matt presented the master plan for the assets and replacements and that, and I thought it was well thought out, and this is what it is.
Yeah, I think with all of the stuff, all the different equipment groups, we're trying to get to that point where it's just kind of analytical, we have a life cycle, we need to kind of go through these replacement steps in order to maintain our fleet. And I think that average number that we came up with when we were looking at the study of right now, on average, we have a 21-year life cycle on our equipment. That's a big, long life cycle on a piece of moving equipment. So I think we've really stretched that, about as far as we want to go before we run into other sorts of complications.
20-year patrol truck has done its useful life.
Yes.
It's a tough thing, because if we're not going to cut anything out of here, we're looking at 3.5 million just for Public Works borrowing. I mean, I have a problem with that. This is a bad year. And how much do we want to increase taxes for our constituents? That might be a segue into, you want to explain you all have this sheet in front of you. How much will taxes go up if we borrow at this rate?
Where was that?
That's more of a GGF thing, I guess, but
It's in front of you. I can start with the explanation, and I think Matthew is on his way up here too.
Could I just ask a truck question before we move off? On the patrol truck, I thought that last year it could have been the year before, we ordered 2.
Yeah, there are years. That's kind of what I was saying a minute ago. The way the previous purchases happened, there are years where the patrol truck was kind of doubled up on. But if you don't kind of spread that out and, work closer to 1 truck a year, then you're going to have more years stacked up with 2 truck purchases. So say, for instance, we didn't purchase a truck this year, we would come to the committee next year and request 2 trucks.
But did we even
And
get
they would
those 2
be-
trucks?
What's that?
In my tenure here on the board, we've ordered 2 trucks 1 year.
Mhm.
The ones that we ordered around COVID were because of shortfalls
yeah.
in timing. And yes, we may have ordered 2 at once, but it was 2 separate budget years.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, you mentioned COVID and it kind of jogged my memory, but we're still catching up from COVID. The truck builders are incredibly behind schedule. So a truck that we order today is 15 months away from showing up here.
Mhm. Anyway,
So-
we're looking at, when we look at, I'm sorry, Jan.
So can we not, we're ordering this in 2026, correct? And
Correct.
then 15 months later, we get the delivery.
Mhm.
So isn't that a 2027 budget?
Be purchased in 2026.
You have to pay in advance. 100%.
No, I think it's 50. Is it 50 down typically with? Looking at Scott, he's going to come up here.
When we order a patrol truck,
Yep.
we pay with the chassis. We order the chassis typically in January. That chassis is typically delivered in July or August. We pay for that 100%. Early in the year, we put half down on the equipment that gets put on it. We receive a discount for that. And then when the truck is delivered, we pay the other half. Couple of quick examples. I know we're talking a lot about trucks, but they're important. The truck that we ordered in January of 2024 was just delivered 2 weeks ago. This is the kind of backlog that Matt is trying to explain. 15 months is to build the truck. We wait 7 months to get the chassis. When the chassis goes out, it's 15 months. You're looking at just shy of 2 years right now to build a truck. So this is important that we stay on schedule. We could be years and years behind if we get off schedule here.
Is it based on years or actual miles replacement? Just
It's based on years. It's because you're talking about, 20 years of very heavy use in extreme conditions. The trucks themselves don't end up, the chassis don't end up with high mileage after 20 years, but they end up with a lot of wear and tear.
What about the, if I remember correctly, you had a list of things that you were going to probably auction or send out to auction
Mhm.
vehicles.
Yes.
Do you still have that list? Is that going to happen? Can that be added to this budget or used
Offset
against
in
it?
some way.
Offset it?
Oh, do the revenues from the
Yes.
auction,
Yes.
can they go towards the capital budget? That sounds like a good question for the finance director.
Yes, they certainly can. Those revenues can be allocated, wherever the village board sees fit. There's only two ways to handle that. You either decrease the debt issuance, by the amount of expected revenue, or you have that revenue pay down the debt service. Those are really the two options.
I'll take either one.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
When will we know what we're getting for this equipment? Is it off to auction yet? It should hopefully be off to auction and have that money before we have to ultimately approve capital expenses.
We're working on setting up the auction. It's an online auction, so it's posted for a period of time and receives bids. It's a lengthy process that can take up to a month.
Kind of like
Um,
eBay for
Exactly.
municipal government.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And based on what we're auctioning, certainly the revenue will be higher than some previous auctions. But I wouldn't expect huge returns from the auction either, because what we're selling is the 20-year-old plow truck or a 15-year-old pickup truck, and it has some residual value, but that's certainly not enough to fund a new patrol truck.
Okay, well,
Well,
we'll wait and see on that.
maybe.
Recommend that. This is the max requested to go out for budget, right? So if we do get some revenues to offset that, then we don't have to borrow as much. And that
Yes.
comes up in the beginning of 26.
Yeah, we typically borrow, we typically close in April or May. So
I don't know if we want to wait for GGF to talk about how this is going to affect the average homeowner. It might be more appropriate than,
Oh, I don't
we
know.
really-
Or both. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, both.
yeah,
Can you separate out in your head just what the DPW would do for the,
yeah. So looking in what I put in front of you are two spreadsheets. The one that is,
No,
you should have had one in front of you.
am I?
I have an extra one, Matt. I can go grab her.
I didn't see anything in the desk. Thank you. You probably have. Oh.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yep. So these two sheets are related. Looking at the horizontal one first. So one of the things that the village is doing in preparation for the 2026 borrowing is looking at different ways to structure the debt. So currently I've been working with Phil from Ehlers of, different ways to structure some of the things, that we're planning on purchasing in 2026. So that includes a 5-year note, a 10-year note, and a 20-year note. And one of the things that this committee had asked was, what will these borrowings do to the average taxpayer and to the tax levy? So based on the information that I received from Ehlers, is anything within the 10-year note, which are many of the things that we're talking about here tonight, the road program, some of the larger ticket items, the DPW portion of that will be roughly $45 per $452,000 on the average home. So if the average home is assessed at $452,000, their taxes will go up about $45 on the 2026 capital projects. Looking at the 5-year note, which is largely made up of non-DPW projects, but there are some in there, the average home will go up about $21. And then the 20-year note of public safety, that borrowing cost will be roughly $81 on the average home.
And Matthew, that borrowing impact doesn't occur in the year of borrowing, it occurs the
Correct.
following year.
Correct. So this would affect the 2027 budget, the 2027 levy. So it wouldn't have any impact on, the taxes that are due this coming December. It'll be the following December where you'll see the levy impact.
So essentially, except for the police department design and fire station, which we know is coming up, for everything else, we're talking about not being more than $48, $50 on the average home.
Correct.
Property
Yes. For
tax.
2026 capital projects, you will note that on the spreadsheet that I have here at the very bottom, it does include the borrowing for Division Road, which is why the 10-year note is so much higher than it would be, without Division Road. The average impact for just DPW projects is roughly, I would say $50 on a $452,000 home.
Now, Matt, this is the math question, okay? For anything we take out, like if it's small, like for example, Matt said you can take out the last 5 things of my list.
Yeah.
I mean, if we did take out, that's like $175,000, somewhere in that ballpark. What type of effect would that have?
So I was working on that a little bit this afternoon, and it's hard to tell because the debt gets restructured depending on the projects and the notes. But I'd call it pretty back of the envelope is for every $400,000 you take out of capital projects, you'll save the average homeowner $10 on their taxes.
If you take out 400,000?
Correct.
Well, then when you look at it like that, it hardly seems worth it. It just seems like we just have to, I hate to say it, but suck it up and. Jan?
Could you, when you gave us the 10-year, you said $45 for the DPW. There are 2 totals of 3.5 million. Does the $45 include Division Road?
No, if you include Division Road and the 2024 ambulance, that total is just under $95, which is what I show on that second sheet.
Oh.
I showed the total for the 10-year note, knowing that the 2 projects at the bottom were approved in the 24 budget and the 25 budget. The reason we didn't borrow for the ambulance is there's typically a 2-year lead time on the ambulance. So we're hoping to get that by the end of 2026. And for Division Road, we knew we wouldn't do the full project in 2025. So we borrowed a smaller portion for the design, and then we're planning on borrowing for the construction in 2026.
So Terry, just to be clear, that $10 difference was if we removed
$400,000 worth of projects.
and it was at roughly the last 5 or just any?
No,
Any four-
actually, the last 5 doesn't come close to 400,000.
Right, yeah. So any.
I guess when I look at it in those terms, is it worth pulling this all apart to
Right.
save $10?
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it.
It's not. Because what projects would you take out? See, the last 5, and I could see why Matt wouldn't be that interested in the splash pad. But you know what? You know how many constituents are interested in the splash pad? You're gonna get a lot of phone calls on that one.
More than they like patrol trucks.
Yeah, and Kinderberg fence and tennis. I don't know, tennis meaning tennis courts. I know it's not your thing, Matt, but
Yeah, that's in Parks and Rec. And I wasn't talking about anything in the Park and Rec line. I was kind
Oh.
of talking about the last 5 or whatever in DPW. I I would definitely argue for those projects as well. But those are just how our priorities kind of shook out. One thing I did want to mention too, before it gets too late, is that the $4,000 we had for purchasing the hanging baskets on Mequon Road, we're going to have to look at reallocating that or not doing that, because we had an engineering analysis done on the poles themselves, and the structure of the pole is not able to support the weight. So we have to think about another project that could use those funds or remove those funds from the budget.
Uh, That's disappointing, but really, I thought that the poles on Main Street are the same as what we put in here on Mequon Road. Is that not right?
I don't believe that's true. And these are different baskets with different loads. So
Well, that's something to bring up to committee for, I guess we could look at it now, but I'm not that big on trying to watch people water hanging baskets along Mequon Road anyway and
I
getting
know.
killed. I would rather see us plant something in the boulevard that's just there. But anyway, not to digress. I guess I defer to you, you guys, if you want to take anything out of this budget at this point in time to recommend to the village board. Let's take a look. And if not, I am now leaning towards, if our only savings is going to be $10 for the taxpayer by taking out $400,000 of this, is it worth it? And in which projects would we take out? One I did think was kind of odd. Are we doing the library pods? Is that a public works thing?
that's not a public works thing, no. So that's under the library. And it looks like
They're borrowing. Okay.
Yep.
The trees are ours. Do we borrow for those last year? I thought that was always part of
It had
the
been
general budget.
It had been general fund non-borrowed capital in the past, or even operating.
Operating.
But we did borrow for it last year, and that would be the plan again this year. I will say that there is that roughly $170 some thousand in savings available if we do make the change on the sidewalk maintenance.
I think we should do that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Does that affect this enclosed snow blower?
Yeah, so we would eliminate the enclosed snow blower, and then we would, instead of the sidewalk tractor, we would request a mower that is 150,000 instead of 272,000.
So we'll have a decision on what we do with the walks before we finalize this.
Yeah, I plan to have the sidewalk ordinance on the Public Works agenda for next week.
Okay.
And is that a savings we will actually see for this next year? I mean, you have the equipment that can limp along, right, through a season?
Yes, knowing that it would be approved, we would be able to do this coming snow season with the
Well, we
equipment that we have.
communicate the
Yep.
change for the following year. Okay. I'm totally for that. So we'll see what that looks like in our next meeting. But that would be at least some savings.
That would be, yeah, roughly 172,000.
What else did we actually move from general fund into here just to make the general fund balance this year?
I mean, it's generally the smaller items, so kind of from,
One of them has to be the gutter seam repair.
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, basically,
And I tend to agree with the public comments that, you know, this is a repair and it says repair. It's not a capital
Yeah.
expense. An 8-year fix, is that considered capital improvement?
I think when you put it in the 5-year note, that's the thought of the finance director, then it could be borrowed for. Wherever it lands, I think it's worth noting for folks that that repair is addressing a safety concern. So these gutters leak, and they leak in the winter, and water drips over the walk and causes an icy condition on the walk. So we do want to make that repair. Actual replacement is substantially more expensive. So we'd be talking about a big project for that. And how it's funded, I guess that's, you know.
Yeah, and the intent was for the projects that move from the general fund that, you know, that we typically fund in the general fund, that we moved to the capital fund. It was about $166,000 worth of projects. For those who wanted to put them in the 5-year note, you know, knowing that, you know, some of those projects or some of that equipment, you know, may not last 10 years, and we don't want to be paying interest on projects or things that, you know, don't last that long. So we tried to shift some of that to the 5-year note. So we're paying that off quicker. But the total shift was about
Those would all be
$166,000.
financed with a 5-year note.
Yes.
How bad are these gutters leaking?
I mean, it's enough to drip and cause the ice buildup. And that's a, you know, a maintenance concern for our staff and then a safety concern for the patrons. So,
So it's right by the front door?
Yep.
Okay,
They always are.
so you're not going to make a motion to remove?
They always leak at the front door.
So are you saying on this second sheet, Matthew,
Mhm.
everything on this sheet, 5, 10, and 20-year note, this is the way you would recommend dividing it and doing the borrowing?
Yeah, this was the way we would amortize the debt. You know, we could shift it, you know, more to the 5-year note, more to the 10-year note. But what we tried to do is take some of the projects that were in the general fund and put them in the 5-year note. You know, not to talk about public safety, but some of the public safety equipment we also put in the 5-year note, knowing that some of that equipment doesn't last 10 years.
So the, it says here, that the, between 2026 and 2027, the overall mill rate increases by 0.4366, which is about 197.
If all the projects on this list were approved and borrowed for, the total impact would be $197.
And the average home was what, 450? You're saying?
452, correct. So on a $452,000 home, their taxes would go up roughly $167. That is using today's assessed values and today's information, but that's a pretty good estimate.
Committee, is there anything we want to take out of this budget
Well,
or recommend at this point in time? Obviously. Be looking at it
Yeah,
again.
baskets that'll save 10 cents,
Yeah,
mill rate.
I thought it was $10. Oh, 10 cents, yeah.
and that could be potentially repurposed for a different beautification effort.
mhm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I would also make the note, you know, we still haven't got all of our state aid estimates from the state yet. So if there are increases there, we could reallocate some of these projects back to the general fund, you know, if the committee and the board so choose.
I personally think that at this time, there's nothing I would strip from here. Based on what I'm hearing, unless somebody else sees something that's under Public Works. I'm not really familiar with when GGF will probably cover some of the other things. Village water heater, I mean, you need a water heater.
Yeah, and
But
I
these
mean,
are like aren't they maintenance? I'm asking. Or is a water heater is like 10 years only?
well, a water heater, yeah, it could last 10 or 15 years. But when you look at the village hall maintenance line and the operating budget, it's not that large, and $10,000 would be a pretty big chunk of that. So to the greatest extent possible, you want to be ahead of failures and putting that in your operating budget, and scrambling to make the fix and do it in a planned way ahead of time. So it's an old water heater. You know, the building is 20 some years old now. And that type of stuff will start to come due.
What about the scissors lift? Is that
Yeah.
critical?
What is it?
It is. It's kind of a platform lift. So it almost looks like an accordion as it goes straight up. And that is something that's needed for maintenance at the DPW facility with the high ceilings, for HVAC work, for lighting work, for controls work. You need that equipment to move around safely. We have other equipment, other lifts, but they're not really appropriate and they're not the safest way to conduct that work. Really inside a facility with high ceilings, you need a lift like that.
How about the maintenance shop welder? Do
Yeah.
we have one now or?
We have one now. But it's kind of an efficiency thing. If you want a lot of details on that, I think I'd have Scott come up and talk about that one. But it kind of replaces a couple different welders, and would be easier for the shop to work with.
Scott, give us a couple minutes on that. Just give us a little. No, you come
No,
up.
speak.
Just give us a 2-minute scenario on why we have to have this.
It just really becomes an efficiency thing for the shop. Again, can we live without it? yes, if that's something that needs to be cut, we can certainly look at cutting that out, but it becomes an efficiency thing for the shop is really what it boils down to, rather than setting up and taking down the one welder we have, they can have it set up for different types of welding and just go to those stations depending on what they're doing.
Which I presume you do use with great frequency.
Yes, yep.
And what about the trailer air compressor?
The trailer air compressor that we own now has been here the entire time I've worked here, 25 years. Again, can it be delayed potentially? It's that same conversation. We're just delaying things that will cost us again in the future. I just like to add too, maybe for food for thought. When we go through these budgets, there are so many things that are on my budget board that aren't even here today to be talked about. So it's just expressing to you that we really do go through these and cut things out ahead of time before we even bring them here.
We get to the point where cutting these little things that really impact the day-to-day, either efficiency or safety, and that for what we save.
Yeah, I agree. We're not saving anything.
Isn't worth it.
If we only save $10, if we cut $400,000 out, why?
Yeah.
That's where I'm netting out on this whole thing.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
One other line item that I wanted to ask about, and that's the Main Street and 145 intersection study. State Road, Village Road, what's that study about?
That is about potential realignment of Main Street to get more of a T intersection at Main Street and Fond du Lac. And we would do that in coordination potentially with the work that the DOT is going to be doing on 145 in a couple of years. So the idea would be to spend a little money now to evaluate what that might look like and potentially integrate it into that DOT project down the road.
What year were they going to do that?
2028, I believe.
Can we wait?
You really, I mean, if we're going to evaluate it, you need to do that in enough time for them to respond and incorporate it into their design process.
I think we pretty much discussed the capital budget to death as much as we can do it tonight. And this is going to come back again next month. And as many times as it has to between now and when we actually have to approve this. So I think we can move on to, so we don't take up too much time here. Let's move on to wastewater, water utility and review that.
All right, well, those were attached to the agenda packet, and I mean, just a real brief overview. Both of the utility, well, I'll start with the wastewater utility. The wastewater utility is kind of, if you look down at the bottom line for expenditures, do that. It is up about 7.16%. Most of that increase is coming from MMSD. So we had estimated some pretty healthy increases from MMSD and actually just received revised estimates from MMSD for next year that bring these numbers down a little bit so that we have yet to talk about how that affects the proposed budget here. But the good news is that it won't increase. I think the numbers we have are satisfactory to cover it. There's a potential that we could reduce the budget. But otherwise, the sewer budget is kind of running back what has been done in previous years. There's a little bit of a decrease in cost for the permits. We went through kind of a big crunch in issuing permits. Actually, that's yard waste. But overall, not too many changes other than the MMSD.
Any questions?
What's a sewer OP joint meter?
What's your name?
83,000.
Put your mic on.
Where are you looking?
Well, the pages aren't numbered here.
Right. We're looking at paper.
Second hard copy page.
Do you say OP joint meter?
It's a sewer OP joint meter.
Yep. So that is the sewer's contribution to the purchase of the water meters.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So
Let's split
they have to-
between two.
between the water and sewer, correct? Yep. So they both contribute, since water and sewer both, tracked on the same meter. They both share that cost.
Under the intergovernmental, right up on the top, you've got MMSD rebates. We got it in 2023 and 2024. And crickets after that. So what's going on?
Yeah, so that was related to, and I might have Matt and Kevin jump in here. That was related to some replacements of the, I don't remember what GO3 and GO5 were, but that was a MMSD approved project where the village paid for, or the sewer utility paid for that project up front, and then we were reimbursed by MMSD.
Yeah, it's for a private lateral replacement program like we were just talking about for the other subdivision, but it was in the Glenwood area.
Okay. So we would see that, are we going to see that in 2026, the replacement MMSD, or 2027? For,
New project for the Coons Pleasant View subdivision,
right,
that would be in 2028.
oh, 8. Okay,
The only other thing that we would add for both of the utilities is that based on financial reporting and analysis that Matthew and the village administrator have done, we're looking at probably in every other year rate increase in order to be in a comfortable position, more so with the water utility. And we get into the water utility, we can talk more about that. But having just done the water in the beginning of this year, we have to take a year before we can increase those rates. So if we do a rate increase in 2026, it will likely be the sewer utility rate that we look at, with water following in 2027.
Okay, and we will have the utility advisory committee involved in this, correct?
Correct.
Way before we make any recommendations on that.
Yep, just like we did for the step 2 rates and for the sewer rate increase this past year. All right. I can scroll down to the water utility unless there's any other questions on sewer.
yeah, I have a question. On the wages, it looks like back in, it says operation, and then there's maintenance, and then there's wages. So under operation, in 23, the actuals were for, this is salary and wages, call it 35,000, then it goes down, then it comes up. And now for 2026, you're looking at 135,000. Are we adding people? What's going on here in operation or maintenance? And maintenance is got a 38% increase in wages as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can address that. I don't have that all in front of me at the moment. But what, similar to what you'll see in the water utility and their salaries, is, for non-admin staff, the PSC, and now the PSC doesn't, oversee this utility, but the PSC recommends that staff gets allocated out proportionally to the work that they're doing. So for the sewer superintendent and the sewer operators, we essentially took them out of the admin area and reallocated them across operation, maintenance, and whatever other orgs there are that aren't admin related. So their overall salaries are not changing, besides, the 3.5% increase that is budgeted for. They're just being reallocated to operation, maintenance.
Okay, any more questions on sewer? Then we'll move on to water.
Oh, one more. It says audit under sewer administrating, accounting and audit. And we're going to spend $20,000 again. Are they audited separately?
Nope, it's part of the annual audit. So when you look at the ACFR, it includes all of the village funds, sewer, water, general fund, all the funds.
I mean, are we paying somebody to do this?
Baker Tilly does the village's
That's what I
annual
wanted
audit.
to
Yep.
know. Thanks.
Matt?
Yeah, so with the water utility, there were some more aggressive changes and reductions because of the financial position and trying to get back into a better position. So if you kind of look across the budget, I'm trying to get to the bottom line here and work our way back. So we're down about 0.72%, but in the non-salary and benefits portion of the budget, we made about a $500,000 reduction to the budget. The reason that it's above that is due to salary increases and benefit increases and so on.
Yeah, the larger changes, would be the increases for salaries and benefits as well as increases for depreciation.
Matthew, just a general observation I had, and this is totally unscientific, but it seemed, what surprised me, it seemed insurance in general was going down. Gas and oil was going down and telecommunications was going up. Is that a fair generalization of all departments?
Yeah, so for, health and dental insurance, expenses, those remained relatively flat, maybe slightly down compared to 2024. We did not increase the premiums for 2026. So there's really not much change there. As it relates to workers' comp insurance and some property insurance, those went up. Roughly, we're budgeting about a 10% increase there. We still don't have those final numbers yet, but we feel pretty good about those numbers.
So much for my scientific survey. All right, thank you.
Any decreases you want to point out specifically, Matt?
I mean, I think there's some lines in here that are used for, emergency purchases and those types of things that,
Supplies.
potentially, yeah, there's a little more risk of running over. And we have had, several emergency repairs. I think generally those are funded out of the reserves in the water utility, not necessarily the operating budget, though it's all, in the end of the day, kind of the same thing. So, it'll be a budget that we'll have to watch and track a little more carefully because of the reductions on some of those bigger operating lines. But at the end of the day, if you look at, ultimately what the budget is and compared to last year's budget, I think it's something that we can work with. When you're looking at the capital side of the water utility, there won't be much proposed for that for next year. That'll be reduced pretty significantly. We have gone through a period where we've done big capital improvements kind of in a number of different areas in the water utility. And because of the funding situation in the utility and the fact that we've done a lot of that work, those costs will be lower for next year.
Those increased rates that we're charging now, that made a big difference here.
I don't know. I think we're still kind of waiting to see how that shakes out. It was initiated in the first quarter of this year, but we have had some additional expenses. There have been the emergency repair on Tower 1 that has been pretty substantial. I reported at the last Public Works that's around $100,000. And then we have the repair on County Line, which was a fairly expensive repair as well, and a couple other smaller breaks. So, whatever gains we made were at least partially consumed by some of those repairs.
Just to add on,
On water.
as I just add on top of that, those rate increases have helped the water utility significantly, certainly compared to where we were prior to 2021 or 2022 when the first step increase was initiated. The water utility still has a positive cash flow. So in 2024, if you look at the statements, we had a cash flow of about $600,000. So we an extra $600,000 in cash compared to where we thought we would be. However, when you take into account depreciation, we're operating at an operating income loss, which is something that the PSC will look at as it decides if a rate increase is necessary, or if we were to apply for a rate increase, what that rate increase should be.
So in these budgets, that has the depreciation on here as well?
Correct.
Because just quick observation here, the Sewer deficit is approximately $1 million and the water is 1.2.
Correct.
And that
Including-
includes all the
That includes all the depreciation.
depreciation.
Correct. So when you're looking at cash flow,
Cash flow, we're okay. but
cash flow are okay, but
book-wise, we're not okay. And
Correct, and
it will
what-
catch up.
yeah, and then what the PSC looks at is, you want to have enough cash flow and operating income to, partially pay for some projects with cash on hand, as well as to be able to cover any debt service that the utility might take on, especially as, if and when there are larger capital projects that the utility needs to do.
Question.
Mhm.
On miscellaneous revenues, the last item is CIAC Richfield.
That is capital in aid of construction. So that was when work was being done on extension to Richfield. Any costs that were incurred by the village were then then we billed Richfield for those. So we track those revenues on that GL line.
And there haven't been any other revenues since or anticipated for 2026?
No, not to my knowledge. Typically, we didn't budget for that historically. We would just, record the revenues and expenses as they came.
That's through.
Got it.
Any further comments or questions on water?
Well, it does say, I'm confused, interest on investments. What is the water utility investment or sewer? What are we investing in?
So that is for, the utility reserves. Those funds are held in investments to earn interest. So whatever, fund balance the utility has is invested, similar to the general fund.
And where are those balances? Is that in this sheet?
The overall fund balance at the end of the year for the water utility was, I have that in front of me, was 2.1 million, and the sewer utility was 1.2 million.
So is that comfortable?
For the sewer utility, we'd want to get that number. We want to grow that number over the next, few years. It's about, I think it's a little over, a month and a half operating. You want to be somewhere, north of 3.
Is that the rule of thumb, 3 months for both water and sewer? Is what you
Yeah.
want to keep?
And that's similar to what we have for the general fund as well.
Any other questions? If not, we will move on to consideration of the 5-year capital improvement plan.
All right, so village staff has worked on updating the 5-year capital improvement plan. This has come to the committee and then the board more or less on an annual basis for a while now. I just wanted to point out some public works related items in the 5-year plan. And then I can answer any questions and we could scroll through it. But the 5-year capital improvement plan identifies consistent spending is needed to stay on top of fleet maintenance cycles. We already talked about that, I think, pretty well in depth. I don't need to go over that again necessarily. In the engineering division, the plan proposes that we're keeping pace with the roads, and we already talked about that, how the PACER rating had been kind of tracking down, and in 2025, we saw a little tick up. I think with the continued investment and keeping that funding level or increasing with inflation, we'll really start to kind of round the corner here in the next handful of years. Another big thing that Kevin and I and Scott spent a lot of time on was trying to highlight the liabilities the village has for stormwater maintenance. So there's a number of lines in the 5-year capital plan relating to pond maintenance, to dredging, to stormwater conveyance, condition assessments, and potentially down the road relay projects for storm infrastructure. And then in utilities, we kind of talked about this. There's large obligations coming up for the wastewater utility in the 5-year window when we're talking about the Old Farm and Main Street lift stations, as well as potential move of lift station 6 and subsequent elimination of lift station 3. So you'll see those identified in the plans. I did want to mention, since there was some public comment on the lift station 6 relocation, and then that's related to lift 3. The land across the river is actually higher than the land where the lift station currently is. So that, our current lift station location on County Line Road flooded, and we had to put up, the containment to prevent damage to the lift station. The other side was higher and dry. So that's just another reason why relocating over there, I think, is an important step that the village should consider. That land is for sale, and the village has tried in the past to acquire the land, but may try to do so again, and see if we're able to make any inroads there. So we are requesting the funding again in this year's budget for the acquisition of that land.
So do we have the bandwidth to replace or do maintenance on 3 different lift stations?
The bandwidth,
Yeah, money,
financial.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, that's one of the reasons that, we're looking at a number of different ways to pay for the lift station upgrades. We're talking about potential rate increases. There's also the possibility that impact fees or connection fees could play a role in that. So exactly how those are funded, we don't know for sure. When Rupert and Milky did their presentation on the lift station study that they completed, they also talked about below market rate loan that was potentially available to the village. So there's a lot of different ways where the village can work different options out to finance those. And what we're proposing for 2026 is just the design for Old Farm and Main Street. The construction would be in the following years.
We just very recently talked about that at one of our meetings.
Yeah, just over the last couple of months.
Are those dollars from the R&M report, the design estimate and the construction cost estimate? Is that from Rupert and Milky?
It was. Yeah, and there was also a mention in public comment about the numbers being different, and there's just some inflation in there because we're planning to do the construction in 27 and 28, and the numbers that we got were obviously 2025 numbers.
Now, the Rupert and Milky was a study, and this is something that would go out for an RFP, is that correct?
Design plans.
Design plans?
Yep.
Yes. There is potential for savings there, I would think.
Yeah, I mean,
Real
the
narrative.
design is a number that was estimated in the Rupert and Milky report. Could that design come in lower? Certainly that's a possibility.
Committee, on this one, we need a motion to send this to the village board.
I'll move approval of the plan and with a positive recommendation to the village board.
Second.
And we are approving the plan, right? Not
Not
the
the
borrowing
expenditures.
or the expenditures or the
This is-
numbers.
Yeah, this is a plan only. You're not approving any funding. This is really just, intended to kind of show you the scope of
Yeah, the
what's in front of the
layout of it.
village over the
Okay.
next 5 years. Yeah.
Second.
Further discussion, Bob?
And then these can change. This could all
Things
change.
can change. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. That moves on to what I hope will be a very short director's report, if we have one.
There is not one. There will be one next week.
Okay, so let's take a look at, it moves us on then to our next meeting date. And that would be October 1st, which is coming right up really quick.
I know.
I will not be at that, so let's be sure we have quorum.
Available.
I will be there.
And Jan, you're available?
And let me, Wednesday, yes. I'll be there.
October 1st, 5:30 PM.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's set. And I think with that, we can adjourn at 6:50 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Trim.
You have to start, at every meeting, you have to start. Because that sets the framework.
No,
That sets the framework for everybody's thing. Oh, exactly. You can't get one. For $20.
You're,
But it's a big.
you're a sub. Thanks, Matt.
we're gonna have people,
Yes, I'm out of here.
he gets to leave.
No, I gotta go to Relish now.
UGF is almost the famous.
I know.